Welcome back to the diner for this edition of Burgers and Fries. So we've talked about shitty jobs. And then we've had one where we called it the Shitty Job Strike Back. So, very fitting, I guess we'll call this one Revenge of the Shitty Jobs. So with me on this edition, we have Mr. Pat and we have ThrillerWolf, aka Greg. Alright, Pat, so you also wanted this one to be brought up. So, why is your job shitty?
There was the owner of McDonald's and no one really liked her, not even me. She was just an absolute bitch.
What did she do?
One of the biggest offenders I think she done was she made my former job coach cry. So much so that she had to get on the phone with her boss and explain to her what happened. Condescending, rude, and luckily she did get fired from her own business. She got kicked off her pedestal, so she's not running McDonald's anymore.
All right, so what did she do that made your life miserable?
She had little to no understanding that I was autistic. And she thought I was like a machine,
So expected 110% efficiency 100% of the time? Something like that?
Yeah. But I'll tell you the reason why she was the way she was. I think it was because her husband died. So she figured she'd take it out on her employees. But I'll tell you another story that happened with her. Apparently she thought it was a good idea to hire a door greeter at McDonald's. And she was just almost as annoying as her.
A door greeter at McDonald's.
Yeah. I mean, let that sink in.
I am. I'm like, what are we... Who would think of having a door greeter at McDonald's? Most people, when they go to McDonald's, they don't want to be greeted. They're basically like, I'm already here because I hate myself and want to put in shitty food. I don't need a greeter.
Well, she thought what she was doing was what was in the best interest of her company and her customers.
It's not her company.
Exactly. But she thought she owned the entire joint, It's like she was playing God.
When was God a woman or something?
What is a woman?
She's not. I mean, it's not. There is one other one. This was at another job I had. It was a summer job. He was an old dude, and he was just an absolute grouch.
In what way?
He had a very nasty temper, kind of like my grandfather. May God rest his soul.
Okay, so what did he do?
He yelled at me over the dishwasher. He was like upset because the dishwasher costs a lot of money, and I forgot what it was about in regards to the dishwasher, but he was just being a cheapskate. Let's just put it that way. You remember that father from Everybody Hates Chris that would complain about how, everything costs money?
Arnold's best friend Gerald, and hey Arnold, that was his dad. What's this lot doing? Yeah, this is a waste of electricity. This is a waste of electricity.
He was President El Camacho in Idiocracy.
Oh, Terry Crews is the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah. But anyway, this manager, like I said, he had he's getting old. I feel like at that point, you just have no business being a manager. It's just time for you to retire, dude. I mean, if you really got a nasty temper, I would suggest maybe get some anger management.
Oh yeah, if you're that old, you should be settling down
in a nursing home.
Well, no, that's where our president belongs.
Yes, him too.
Well, thank you for telling us about some people that you just didn't really like working for and giving us some brief explanations.
Yeah, and I know it probably wasn't as impactful as, say, Mikey's.
I don't know about that, but Again, I'm going to be the main event in this one because I got a long tale that I'm going to be talking about. But before I do that, Greg, you wanted to be talking about this. So who is this asshole that you work for?
Some manager for Amazon. I've been getting less shifts since my scorecard is not even that perfect.
Well, I remember that's what it was like when I worked at a fulfillment center. So tell me, what do you do at Amazon?
I do delivery driving.
Do they? Is there a certain amount of things that they expect you to be delivering?
Well, it depends if the package is not heavy or anything.
Give me examples of like how this was unrealistic for you as a delivery driver to get the number of packages that they expect to be delivered by a certain time.
If I can think of one example, I need to find a way to deliver about 30 packages in an hour.
30 packages in an hour, so that's basically one every 2 minutes.
Yes.
And where are you delivering these packages?
To some houses, but the one that's real pain in the butt to get into are the apartments and all that. Because either I'm not given the keys to get in, or the customer is not even home.
Oh, that's a pain in the ass in general, I'd imagine, if the customer isn't even home.
Well, the way to get in is to use like your scanner to if you were ever given the key password to get inside, that wouldn't be a problem. But sometimes they just don't give you the access to it.
So what do you do instead when they don't give you the access?
Either I had to call the customer or text them, and if they're not home or anything, I got to move on from it.
I actually did work at Amazon once.
And?
Yeah, it was pretty terrible.
And I guess that South Park episode writes itself.
I did a whole rant on my time working at an Amazon fulfillment center. I know exactly how it goes in those places. But again, that was back in 2017. I don't know if things have changed in there. It felt like the goals were unrealistic. So if you're delivering, Greg, I'd imagine you're supposed to go to this address and you're supposed to reach this address by a certain time. And whatever time they give you to keep your score reasonable, it's barely enough time to get there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was like working in the warehouse. And so I would have to go from one bin to another. And again, these are like dirty laundry clothing bins where everything is thrown in. So I'm expected to find a medium black shirt in a bin of black shirts of all different sizes. And even if I scan the code wrong, I get docked.
Yep, and not to mention, wherever the GPS tells you to go, well, I can't remember during this week, go to a certain address, it tells me to go down a muddy road and all that, and I got stuck.
So, and they don't seem to have any leeway, they don't seem to have any understanding that, hey, the roads are bad, or the weather's bad, the traffic's bad.
Nope.
Even if the GPS takes you through traffic.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus Christ. Again, I don't necessarily see this as your boss being an asshole. I see this as the algorithm system they put in as being an asshole. Mm-hmm. So what are your interactions with your supervisor like?
Well, I know he can be hard because, well, he's trying to make us better and all that. I can understand for the most part, but I think when it comes to perfection or something, that's going to be hard to keep track of.
So anything else about working at Amazon that either of you two would like to talk about or bring up before I start giving out the main course?
Nope.
No, not really, other than the fact that the job was very hard, just stowing packages. All of it was like very confusing for me, and it felt like I was being timed.
Oh, exactly. Whenever I worked at UPS or at Amazon, it was the whole thing was you being timed, and then so imagine you're having to walk, squat, lean.
But I will say one other thing about one of my previous jobs, going back to McDonald's. It wasn't just the fact that the owner was an absolute bitch, but also one of my bosses there actually did sexually harass me once.
Sexually harassed you?
She whispered in my ear that she wanted to touch my ass.
Sheesh.
Oh boy.
And this was around the time when I was still dating.
I'll just censor the name, don't worry.
So it's wrong when a guy does that, but when a woman does that, that's okay.
Yeah, like, if I had thought about it at the time, I would have pressed charges and just had my girlfriend at the time deal with her.
All right, guys. So I let you guys get your shit in. Now I'm going to get my shit in, but I guarantee you this is going to be a long one. So this has everything to do with the hockey club that I used to coach for from 2018 into 2023. For those you don't know, yes, I was an ice hockey coach in real life for about 17 years of my life total. Again, when I'm talking about these teams, these clubs, these names, any name that I bring up are not the actual names of the people. Everything has been changed to protect privacy. So that's what we're going to be going. So the club we're going to talk about, for the sake of narration, is going to be the Monarchs. How I ended up at the Monarchs. Long story short, because I already told a lot of this in the Amazon Fulfillment Center rant, I had been disenfranchised by the rink I worked at, which we're going to say as Metro Ice. So in early 2018, and that's what I did for many years. That was my income, or my main means of income. So unfortunately, because of a business deal that happened, that by another club, they said, "Oh, Anthony, sorry, this club now has priority. They get to do lessons. We can't let anybody else but coaches of this club doing lessons." I was losing my lesson privileges. Now, if you're not a professional coach, like you coach these major college teams or junior teams or whatever, how you make money coaching youth sports and even amateur sports is through private lessons. That's how coaches make their money. Get me so far?
Yep.
Now I'm again thinking my plate's already full because I have a warehouse job at the time. I have my city job at the time. I'm working 2 jobs. So I thought, all right, I'm done. I gave it a good run. Now I'm going to ask you guys, why do you think I kept going? What do you think would have caused me to keep going at this point?
Because it was the only job you got.
Well, that was part of it. It was the job I only knew at the time. But there were some other reasons. And what would you think would be those?
I don't know.
It was because people who were going to this club called the Monarchs, at this rink that we're going to call Windsor, they were saying, "Oh no, Anthony, don't leave us. We need you. Don't stop coaching. Come over to the Monarchs. It's great over here." So I thought, all right, I'll give the Monarchs a shot. They were a rising club. They seemed promising. They had buzz, intrigue, and most people who were there were families that I already knew from Metro Ice that defected over there. So, felt like the right thing to do. So, what do you think, gentlemen, would have been the one thing I would have wanted if I was going to move over to another rink in another club?
To teach new players?
Exactly. Give lessons. I told the Monarchs president, who we're going to call Huey, I said, this is the one thing I want. I need to do my lessons. I need to be able to train kids the way I know how to train them. And what do you think the president said?
No.
So yes, the Monarchs president promised me that he was going to get lessons for me. Oh yeah, Anthony, we'll make it happen. But then as soon as I got over to the Windsor Arena, the rink owner shot that down, saying, "No, I have too many coaches that I have in my rink. You're going to have to wait for lessons." So imagine how that made me feel.
Frustrated.
Exactly.
Frustrated.
Over the years I was there, I would notice these other people get hired and granted those privileges after previously being told we have too many coaches.
Jeez.
And then I'd watch these same coaches, and they did really piss poor jobs at coaching these beginner classes. And some of these guys could barely skate, and yet they were giving skating lessons. my God, I know what I'm fucking doing, and I'm watching these people just completely shit the bed. What do you think I would have found that? I would have found that insulting, right?
Yes.
Yep.
And then here's another major problem when it came to the lessons, is the coaches that were being allowed to give lessons at this Windsor rink, they coached for rival clubs. They were only allowed to still do lessons there because they were friends with the rink owner. So again, none of the Monarchs coaches were allowed to do lessons at this rink, but these outside club coaches were. Do you see a problem with that?
Yeah.
What do you think would happen if a family on the Monarchs seeked private lessons, but they can't get it from any Monarchs coaches? Who would they get these lessons from?
You.
No, because I can't get lessons at the moment. So who would they get them from?
Black market dealers?
No, these other coaches from these other clubs. Think of it. This coach works for a rival club. Is he going to tell that player to go skate for my club or his club?
His club.
Bingo. So that was a huge problem. And you can understand that above everything else is just frustrating the hell out of me. Because the one thing I want and I'm not getting it. And then again, there's more problems. Guess what else I had a problem with?
The payment.
The pay. So I was getting chump change as a travel coach.
Doesn't seem right.
No,
I
it
mean,
doesn't.
the NFL and the NBA and probably the MLB make lots of money every year for doing sports, and yet your hockey gig can't even pay you the same amount as those famous sports.
Okay. Well, you're talking professional sports, okay? Let's just stick with amateur at this point. Hockey in general is expensive. You compare from recreational level, even travel hockey, it can cost anywhere between 4 to 5 figures a year for a parent to have their son play hockey. And, okay, obviously, if you're doing rec league, okay, well, you're not going to get as much money doing rec league. You would think that you would get more money doing travel hockey because of all the money that's getting paid for this kid to play. Well, Huey claimed because they were a cheaper club, they couldn't afford to pay the coaches the big bucks. So the problem I had with all of this was when I coached recreation leagues at Metro Ice, I got twice the amount per month doing just recreational league than I would get doing travel hockey for the Monarchs.
Yeesh.
That is not right. But hey, I do it because I want to just get my foot in the door or whatever. But every time I asked Huey about the lessons or about better pay, he just kept saying, "Oh, sorry, it's not going to happen. If you want to get the lesson, you need to talk to the owner." And then I would talk to the Windsor rink owner, and he just kept saying, "Oh, I'll let you know." Nothing came of it. And this just went on for years. So what are you gathering at this point from the story that I'm telling you?
Shitty jobs don't last forever.
Shitty jobs shouldn't last as long as I made this one last. If you were in my situation, guys, would you have stayed as long as I would have? Or would you have said,
Nope.
Screw this? Exactly. Something I should have done many years prior. I could have just said, screw this, but I kept at it because I really enjoyed doing what I did.
Well, again, just from personal experience, I'd say my 2 jobs up in PA were probably the worst.
So from your experience, it's worse doing a job you absolutely hate versus doing a job that you love, but you're not getting what you need out of it.
Well, I shouldn't say that. I'd say they're both pretty terrible in
Okay.
their own right.
Fair enough to say. But the problem that we had with Huey, the club president, is he kept meddling in team affairs when he didn't need to be. There'd be times when he would try to go into our locker rooms after these games and give these super long, drawn-out speeches talking about teamwork, work ethics, blah, blah, blah. After myself and other coaches would do the post-game debriefing. And oftentimes these speeches would completely undermine everything I already said to the team. So every time Huey did these stupid presidential speeches to the teams, they would walk out of the locker rooms feeling worse than they felt after the game. So it got to the point where I had to tell Huey, nah, we're good. And I pretty much banned him from getting in my locker room. So one other thing that I remember happening before the first year is I remember Huey telling us, oh, all of the coaches, you're only going to get one team. You're not going to get multiple teams. But then this other guy, Enzo, decided to use what Cloudy had, and he said, oh no, if I don't get 2 teams, I walk away, blah, blah, blah. And then he got 2 teams. Huey gave in to his demand. And then he ended up coaching the team that I initially wanted to coach, because that's where I had all the families I knew. But then Enzo shits the bed. He had teams littered with problems, especially because of the way he coached. So he caused a lot of families to say, screw this at the end of the season, because sometimes he would show up drunk or hungover on more than one occasion.
Wow.
So after that season was over, with a ton of families leaving because of Enzo and their problems with Huey tried to, soften the blow by firing Enzo and then had me take over the age group to help put out one of Huey's flames. Damage was done, and pretty much all the families that had told me to come over to the Monarchs, they were all gone. So that meant I had no reasons to stay. So at this point, you think I would have left, right?
Maybe.
Let me guess, you didn't.
I didn't. I gave it another year. And then it turned into 2 years of dealing with Baldwin and his parents, which again, I've already explained a lot in the worst sports parent rant. Go check that one out if you haven't already. But after 2 years of this, when the 2019-2020 season ended, that's when I started thinking, okay, now this is my last game. Now I'm done because I'm not getting what it was promised. Everyone I care about is gone. There's no reason to stay. I need to move on. And I went up to Huey and I told him all these things. What do you think Huey did?
He did something stupid, did he?
He promised me, no, it's going to happen. No, keep staying. We're going to get these opportunities for you. Just you wait. Don't leave.
Yeah, that's sugarcoating things.
I know. So, and then the pandemic happens. So I kind of stuck around because it was a job that I could do during the pandemic.
That's better than nothing?
Exactly. No, at that point, it's better than nothing. I'll stick around. Maybe if things get better, then maybe I'll get the things that were promised. Then more red.
And you didn't.
Nope, because then more red flags start to happen.
Oh boy.
Here's the thing with the pay. I already told you it was already less than what I would be getting coaching recreational leagues back home. So at first, the first couple years, the pay was guaranteed monthly plus extra when we did tournaments. But then after the second season, Huey started telling us, nope, it's all hourly. So you're just going to get paid per every hour that you coach. I was initially told it was going to be $40 per hour, which, hey, that's not bad. And then guess what Huey did?
I don't know. What?
He lowered it. He said, nope, it's going to be $30 per hour.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Yeah. And I thought, okay, fine.
This because of COVID, though?
That's what he probably would have claimed at the time. And I'm thinking, all right, fine. Pandemic, businesses losing money. But when the next season came out and everything was going back to normal, do you think Huey raised the rates back up?
Nope.
He did not. Especially when a time that he should have, because that's when we were feeling the sting of the inflation. So the other thing about the hourly rates is that we would get less practices for tournament weeks. And then I would also get less events in December because of a holiday break that usually happened. So for December, I would usually get only 2 weeks pay instead of 3 to 4 weeks. Let's review before we continue, guys. 1, I'm dealing with a club president who talks out of his ass with promises and claims he never delivers. 2, I'm dealing with the fact that many families who were cycling in and out of the Monarchs eventually just couldn't stand Huey anymore and decided not to give him another dime. So the average stay for any customer was usually 2 or 3 seasons before they said, fuck this, and then they moved on, usually to another club. And then on top of that, I'm dealing with a decrease in pay despite everything getting more expensive. And other coaches at this point decided to skip town or just not bother joining the Monarchs at all because of the shit pay rate.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm dealing with a rink owner who's extremely set in his ways despite these ways hurting any chances of the Monarchs growing. Even though we're the Monarchs, we're buying lots of ice from this guy, but no, he has to keep allowing these outside coaches to do lessons because they were his friends, but nobody from the club that was actively in business with him, nope, they're not allowed to do lessons. Do you think this is bullshit so far?
Yep.
Because of the constant need to fill these teams back up because of everybody leaving every season, it got to the point by year 4, we were scraping from the bottom of the barrel to fill these low-level teams. We'd be getting players that were barely adequate on the ice. They weren't even the greatest players in learn to skate classes, which again, were also coached and instructed by morons. So they not only had to learn basic fundamentals when they got on my ice, but then they had to learn how to play the team game that travel teams are supposed to know. So there are times at these tryouts when I'd see these really, really low-level jabroni players show up, and I didn't want to offer them a spot on these teams because, again, they're not there. Only for Huey to tell me, Anthony, we need their money. Can you just sign them, please? They really want to play. Kind of a shitty situation again, isn't it?
Indeed.
Yeah.
So now we jump to the spring of 2022. Now there's another fire that needs to get put out. I get told, Anthony, I need you to coach the little kids. They're 8 years old and under. The coach we had lined up for it just screwed us and we have nobody else. So I begrudgingly agreed to coach the little kids, thinking I was just getting thrown around to just do the jobs that nobody wanted to do. So I go from coaching these older kids in these serious leagues, these serious divisions, to the little kids. How do you think I'd feel about that?
Terrible.
Yeah, it would feel like a downgrade, right? It would feel like a demotion.
Yep.
Yep.
So then the next thing I said was, Huey, do not schedule my team's clinics on Friday nights because I worked my city job those days. What do you think Huey did?
He,
Not give a crap.
yes.
He scheduled my clinics for Friday nights. Oh,
That
sorry.
guy must be a real tool.
Oh, sorry. It's just the ice slots I was given. Like, okay, so I can't practice with this team I was given because of my other work commitments, and I'm expected to just have this magic or whatever. So then I showed up to the first game and immediately thought, what the fuck am I doing here? One of the main reasons was that there were a couple of these 5 to 6 year olds who couldn't skate. I would have a kid literally push off with one leg and not the other. Like when you skate, you use 2 legs to go. When you walk, how many legs do you use to walk?
2.
2. This kid only used 1 leg.
Yeah, I mean, I learned to roller skate when I was in elementary school.
And he was also so slow, you had to measure his speed using a sundial.
Oh,
Ugh.
jeez. Must have been real fun.
Oh my god. And then I was told it was literally his second time getting on the ice.
Oh, wow.
Eesh.
A sad
remember-
sob story.
I remember thinking, why would Huey tell this poor kid he could play? I remember asking my assistant and he just said, well, it's because it's Huey. He'll take anyone.
Of course he would.
So at the same time I have this team of young throwaways, we're getting our asses kicked by these experienced 8-year-olds every weekend. Another thing that happened is the team with this was assembled without a goalie. We were told, oh, don't worry, we'll provide you a goalie. Only to find out that the goalie that we're getting was a player from one of the teams that we played every week.
You know, I just had an idea for Disney's next live-action remake, The Mighty Ducks. Have you be in it.
Well, the way I got with these kids later on and connected, yeah, there's a lot of Mighty Ducks-like stories there. But I'm talking about the organization and the club that I worked in. So we ended up having to play without a goalie until the referee saw the kid who couldn't skate and then just told this kid who couldn't skate to stand in front of the net. And then he became our goalie. Despite this, I got with my parents and I just decided, you know what? Let's rally together. Let's just say, yeah, we've been fucked over thanks to Huey. We've been fucked over thanks to this league. So let's just stick together and raise the middle finger back. Let's just support our kids and let them know they're loved. And then over time, my kids got better and my parents saw the improvement. And by the time tryouts came for the spring of 2022, I had the only team that was a sure thing. Like, I did my job well. My team was ready to go. What do you think the rest of the club was doing?
Terrible.
They couldn't keep players. So we had to continue to scrape from the bottom of the barrel from learn to skate classes to make more teams. And Huey insisted I pushed for 2 of these 8-year-old teams instead of 1. And even though it resulted in a large roster, my core team was fine, but the remaining players who made the second team were another group of jabronis. And then I insisted, Huey, let me coach the second team. Let me guide them the same way I guided this other thrown together team, and then we'll be good. And he didn't want to pay me for 2 teams. Instead, he gave this team to somebody who had never coached before, and he completely undermined everything that I wanted to do on the ice. He didn't want to work with me. So my team got better, but his team didn't. And because of that, his team's parents were pissed, and this other coach constantly blamed me instead of blaming his lack of coaching. To the point where oh yeah, it's Anthony's fault. He doesn't know how to work these kids. Like, really? Look at Anthony's group. His kids are thriving. What about your kids? They don't know anything. Okay, teach them. But anyway, it got to the point where Huey had a falling out with this other coach, and then I eventually took over the second team for the last couple weeks, but the damage was done. What do you think all these people did after that season was over?
They never want to work with the team again?
That's right. So they were already leaving. In the meantime, spring of 2023 comes around. Huey is promising this huge spring program where we're going to have all these players, all these teams, blah, blah, blah. And guys, how many players do you think need to show up to be able to make 2 teams?
About 20.
You are correct. It's about 20. All right. You need at least 18 to 20 kids per age group to essentially have a good program out of this. So week 1 comes, and then this slot was going to be shared by 3 age groups. You know how many kids showed up? 12.
Jeez.
Not per age group, for all 3 of them. 12 kids out of all 3 age groups. So we had to combine my 8-year-olds with the older kids just to scrape by. Coaches are leaving. I'm one of only 3 coaches that remain with the club. And then I was finding out that most of the players that we had in the club prior to this, they were already at other rinks doing other programs. So get this. Because of all the promises that were never delivered, one parent posted a scathing message on the message board calling the Monarchs club president and the spring program the Fire Festival of Hockey. You know
What's that?
You don't know what the Fire Festival is?
No.
Look up Fire Festival. Look up FYRE Festival, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
All right.
One of my buddies named Donnie, who by this time was supposed to be the club director, was telling me that he kept encountering so many families telling him, we won't come back if Huey's the president. We will not give that man another dime. And then the spring program is rolling around. I'm covering for other coaches who left, and I'm doing all this extra work, but I'm not getting paid.
Shit.
It gets to the point where Huey was 2 months behind in pay for me.
Jeez, what?
Yeah. Finally, because he's 2 months behind, and I'm confronting him, I was like, hey, what the hell's going on? He finally tells me, oh, sorry, Anthony, the club's in serious debt. We owe the rink thousands of dollars. We owe uniform vendors money, blah, blah, blah. So, here's the thing. With scores of families paying the club thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars per player per season. Okay, you're getting maybe 50 to 60 players, maybe even 100 players for this one club to cover ice time, uniform, referee, coaching costs. So hundreds of thousands of dollars are coming into this club. Where the hell's all the money going?
To Huey?
As I found out, Huey was using money from the Monarchs that these parents are paying to fund his wife's nonprofit business salary.
Or what?
A nonprofit business, that's what I remember. His wife was getting $40,000 to $50,000 a year from money that was made by this club.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that like shady business dealings or something? Bribery?
Yes. Not even bribery, it's just very shady business deal. It's just terrible business practices. It's like, no, you do not fund someone else's business with something that is not a surefire thing like club hockey.
I'm pretty sure you could get fired from your own company for that.
Well, it's the same thing what BLM did.
Right.
And not to mention Time's Up movement and all that.
The word of the financial ruin was getting out. And even my core parents who stuck with me were getting pissed that I wasn't getting paid. So I finally had to say, I won't show up to a single event until you're caught up with me on compensation. So what do you think Huey does when I say that?
He laid you off, didn't he?
No. He says, well, can you at least show up to tryouts? It'll be devastating if you weren't there. Like, in my mind, I'm remembering that as all of this is imploding, Huey's nowhere to be found. He's not witnessing any of this that's happening on the ice, that's happening at the rink. And I'm telling him, dude, nobody's showing up. All these families you're asking about, they're all at other rinks. And he just kept saying, I'm not worried about them. Tryouts are usually a weekend where we're expecting scores of people to show up for these ice slots, hoping to get on a team and whatnot. I want you to take a guess. How many people showed up to try out for a team on this club?
5.
1.
25.
1 person showed up. For 5 age groups, X amount of teams, 1 person showed up. Everyone had said, screw this. They were all trying out at other rinks and making teams there.
Mm-hmm.
So it was definitely a funeral pyre for the Monarchs at this point. And Donnie and I, we were there. We could see the panic in Huey's face. And even his wife knew it was over. So what do you think Huey did?
Told you there you were fired?
No, he just said, oh, I'm not giving up. We can just rebrand. Donnie and I looked at Huey and we both thought, are you high?
Judging from the...
It's like trying to rebuild after Hurricane Katrina.
Donnie later told me that Huey tried telling him, well, what if we made Donnie the club president and Donnie does all the things and Huey's completely behind the scenes and not present at all, but Huey still financially backs and benefits. Donnie just said, no, I'm not going to lie to people and say that you're not ending up with the money. People will figure that out. So we both left afterwards. Instead of blaming himself for running his club to the ground and causing hundreds of people to leave, he blamed other people.
Not taking any accountability.
Exactly.
Talking about being retarded as well.
So I knew all these people went and signed over with the Admiral Club down the street. And when I tried contacting the Admirals for a job, unfortunately, they blew me off. I never got a single reply from them. I tried talking to their president in person, and he didn't really want to talk to me. So that was that. I didn't want to go back to Metro Ice. The Monarchs were dead, and the Admirals didn't want to hire me for whatever reason. So my coaching career at that point, it's over. How do you think I felt about that after when I realized it was all over?
Devastated?
Not at all. When I realized it was all done, I wasn't heartbroken. I kept remembering how many times I had to say, this is my last year. I'm done with this BS. It's time. Can't tell you how many times I would talk to myself going to these practices and games saying, okay, this is the last one. This is the last year. I only kept going for that long was because I love the sport and I love doing the job. And I love being a mentor to countless kids and got to watch them grow. But yeah, it feels now like it's a chapter that's closed for good. Only time will tell if I move on to better things down the road. So I have given you a huge explanation. I've given you my tale. What do you make about all this, gentlemen?
Honestly,
Very
it was
upsetting.
What was pathetic?
Well, your I guess boss, Huey. I mean, that guy is an absolute dork and an absolute tool.
Yeah. I gave this 5 years when I should have been done with it after 1 or 2 years. I should not have given them any more of my time. But I did, and it's a lesson that I've learned. So for those of you who are listening to me, even if it's a job that you really, really like to do, if you're not getting what you need out of it, life is too short. Don't do what I do and hold on to it for too long. Because eventually it will implode, and then all of a sudden, you're left without a job.
Yep.
mm-hmm.
So with that said, guys, with the shitty job striking back, in this case, it struck me back because I don't have that job anymore. The diner is closed. I'm Desert Coyote 22. Thanks for listening.